Not showing live yet. 18th. Where's the date today? 18th. Hello, everybody. Good evening to everybody. Sun and moon here. The day is the 18th of October 2017. We have on the panel tonight Patricia and Foertsch. So hello, everybody.
Greetings, Karen and Patricia, series, and of course, Karen.
Hi, everyone.
Robert, you've come to talk about something, haven't you?
Well, I did. You know, it's been a really hectic the past week or so. As you know, I've taken quite a bit of photographs out with tidal pools and that type of thing. Well, what happened here this past week is we've had a renourishment program that you're actually looking at right in front of you. And there's heavy equipment that's operating on the beach, and it was quite a treat to be able to see that right there in the shot. We've got bulldozers and tidal pools that they needed to construct to be able to get through. I'm going to back up. There's the guy that's using a transponder of sorts to be able to determine elevation, as you can see. And that's all kind of interesting because we're at sea level and he's taking readings to determine what level the sea floor is. What we had was a series of ships, two ships that were out there, and there of course is my iconic water jug, showing the level in the jug there, and then I'll match it up to the sea level. That's at the Prince Pier Resort. Now the other thing is in the shot there too on the left side is a pipeline that's 30 inches in diameter, and what they're doing with the ships is vacuuming up 1,500 dump truck loads of sand off the bottom of the ocean. And then they use 8,000 horsepower diesel pumps to pump it out of their hold down to the ocean floor through the pipeline and up onto the beach there. So it requires a lot of diesel fuel, manpower, and millions of dollars worth of mechanization technology. They create computer models that give them they program when that gentleman is out there walking around with that device. That will be fed into a computer model and program to estimate the shape of the basin that they're going to create with the earth moving equipment. Each one of those bulldozers is worth over $600,000. They're diesel electric, a couple of them. That's all kind of interesting there too. And what happens is they're they're taking sand from the ocean floor and putting it up, washing it out, screening it, and then putting it up onto the beach there. Recently, I went ahead and changed my profile picture on Facebook, YouTube, and my group or my page, eternalperspectivebible.com. In that, let me see if I can just quickly show that. What's interesting about it is I made the proclamation on there that undisturbed water is flat and level, and water covers the face of the earth, most of the face of the earth. So I've got it as my profile and cover photo picture. And as you can see, let me pan up there a little bit. I took this shot on the beach one morning when the waves were coming in, obviously, and it was just a beautiful reflection, and the timing was perfect to see the still calm water with the perfect horizontal line in the middle of the bottle, matching up with what would be the horizon if you could see it from there, but there's a wave in the way. But that was all part of the design of the shot. One of the efforts that I am making, or one of the reasons why I do this primarily is to show people a practical reality that they can look at in their own home with or wherever they are, to see the water and how the water responds to different stimulus or none at all. Undisturbed water is flat and level. You give it a few minutes and it'll level right out. Well, in the context of this right here, that pump that's in the view, in 1 hour that will pump 1,500 truckloads of sand, dump truckloads of sand, and uh, and move that up onto the beach. It's normally a 60-40 mix. So if you consider that there's a substantially larger portion of water that goes along with that, it's pretty fascinating. Now, to put that into context, the storm that moved all that out of the way happened approximately a year ago. And as you look in the view, that they have no problem letting that water go to the ocean. That's what that's the way they design it. That's an eddy right there, where it's spinning around. It's at a, it's at one of the corners, and then the bulldozers just manipulate that water stream. They create a type of a basin that has texture that causes the sand to precipitate out of that. That equipment there, that clamshell, moves the pipes that are thousands of pounds each. So uh, to be out there and watch this was pretty fascinating, because it's a $28 million enterprise that's going to last about a couple of weeks long. So it's a substantial amount of money. It's actually government money, an emergency fund. Basically, from how, okay, now there, right there, I want to just show you something. That little puddle right there is a tidal pool, and you can see up here let's see if I can, well, the tracks kind of disappear on the left side there. That's because the water sloshed around back and forth and just kind of washed them away. And then a few minutes after that happens, it's perfectly still once again. So it's a tidal pool that is connected right to the ocean there. It's like when you're at the beach, if you dig a hole deep enough, you'll hit water. Well, that's what they did here, and they have no problem going through over 4 feet of water, that equipment. And they do it day and night. They operate 24/7, basically. So they have operators, 3 shifts of operators that take turns keeping those going, and then support staff on the ground works 12-hour shifts. Over to the right side, you can see the actual pipe that's there. But it's all pretty fascinating how they choreograph this. They time it very precise, so that the pump, it's continually moving. It's a continually moving operation, and they'll bring in the auxiliary lighting to operate at nighttime, and in that. So one storm, Hurricane Matthew, moved many times more sand out of here than they'll spend a few weeks to bring in at a substantial cost. Now, with Hurricane Harvey and Irma and other hurricanes that we've had, there's been a lot of death and destruction that can accompany those. And that's one of the reasons why this is a bit of an emergency, to replenish this. And the beach actually helps protect the structures, and then of course the people that live in and around them. One of the things that is so obvious to us now that we understand a bit more of how this works, the higher is drier and lower is wetter. At the at the edge of the ocean, or basically anywhere. I mean, if you want to know where the low spot is in your driveway, look for where the puddle is. You know, that's pretty much how that works. And we've got a big puddle that covers the face of the earth, and then continents come up out of it. And then, like in areas like this, you can see where the turbulent water is actually changing the shape of the container because the sand is easily moved by the water, and it can just wash people and things right away when you get the kind of storm surge that a hurricane will bring. Now, I do believe we're going to see. Oh yeah, I'm going to zoom in on the ships out there. Those are the large ships. That one's finishing up because it's higher in the water. That one is lower in the water, and then it will trade places. And that right there, that large apparatus that was in the middle, also takes readings. It's about 45 feet tall, and it can drive out there, and they take it out in the ocean and take more readings that are put into a computer model, so they know the beach that they're working with and where to move the sand, basically. So, like in the corner there, it'll be a bit different. The shape of the container affects the way that the water flows through all that. And there's a high concentration of sand within the water, which gives it a tremendous amount of force too. So it's been really interesting. I've spent a lot of time, probably over 125 hours out there uh, broadcasting some of it. The first day I did a 22-hour broadcast, and it was the entire New Testament and about 3 hours of explanation of this, and none of it posted. Now, the old me would have been really mad. The new me, the born again me, just went, okay, well, tomorrow's another day, and I'll give it another go, which I did, and I was able to get, maybe a total of several days with 20 hours or so of broadcast there. I had a problem with my camera being locked, and I finally got that taken care of. See, on the way that the jug matches up with the horizon, I just want to illustrate something here on that. I know that some people will say, "Well, gosh, Robert, that's a small container compared to the horizon," and I would say you're exactly right. That's true, but it's still level. If that was in a level for construction, it would do the same thing. And if somebody says, "Well, that's a small container to determine the shape of the earth," I would say, well, how about this? How about we just use all the liquid in the world and the physics and property that it has, and take it from there. And then, you can see it in your beverage containers if you would like to. You can look in your toilet if you've got indoor plumbing. I've actually had people that say, yeah, we can tell that the earth spins because the way the water goes around in the toilet. It goes in different directions. And it's kind of humorous for us if that's somebody's basis for determining spherical rotation and that we live on a globe. That and pictures from NASA, they've got some research to do if they want to get to the bottom of this. But see, some people will not want to get to the bottom of this. For whatever reason, they want to believe what they want to believe, and that's kind of how that works. Right down there, that water is nice and relatively still, and it's reflective. Now, not only is the water reflective, and this isn't a picturesque setting, it's an industrial setting. The people that come out to walk near the ocean quite often are very reflective. They're reflecting on their life. They come out here for weddings, honeymoons, starting over in life, retirement, and they're reflecting on their life. So that's why me going out there and taking pictures of the beauty of that lends itself well towards an interaction with people. Now, in the context of being out on the Cherry Grove Pier, I would say at least a dozen people came up to me during that time, and we actually had some really wonderful conversations. Pastors, ministry leaders, and just people that were curious what I was doing, what this was, what this was about. Am I creating a documentary? And of sorts, I am. I'm documenting what we're looking at there, the physics and property of water, and why it's important that it's there, the sand that is, the beach reconstruction. Before we did all the development in this area so close to the beach, there used to be large dunes. And the dunes actually were a substantial protection from storm surge. When that was removed and construction went right out to the beach there, it made those structures very vulnerable. This is a good bit of ways. That's probably 5 miles away. I'll try and focus back in on that. That's the breakwater where ships go through at the intracoastal waterway, and Pelican diving in there. The idea with the Nikon P900 is it allows me by the way, they discontinued that model with no news that I've heard yet of a replacement device. Don't know if they're replacing that. The seagulls were really excited with all the activity. I would see them with all kinds of well, like eels and different things they were pulling out of the water. Now, if you look at the water jug right there, on the top of the water, there's no vibration. It's perfectly level. It's like a mirror. It does that all over the place. And pretty much, what I've made an effort to do in my photography and videography is show people the world that we live in, and what it really looks like. Not computer trickery, not computer fakery. And I can't get in a spaceship and go up and take a picture of what we live on. There's the Prince Pier Resort, very nice place. Now this pier that I'm on, in 1963 they caught the largest tiger shark in the world, almost 2,000 pounds of shark, and they're pretty aggressive fish. So it's good to know that they're out there, and I don't like to go in very deep. As they were doing this uh, renourishment, they call it, I saw sharks out there in below knee deep uh, water. And like I mentioned quite a few times, this isn't a surfer's paradise. The water is really flat. We don't get many big waves. Sometimes we do when the storms come in and that. There's just a variety of equipment that they bring in for a project like this, and they're going to be working down the Myrtle Beach coast. As I panned, there was a piece of equipment off into the ocean there that is a 16,000 horsepower diesel pump that they're going to use for the Myrtle Beach renourishment. So the physics and property of water, how that works, I'm about to, let's see, I'll get to that point right now. I'll just move it ahead. We can see how the water's moving, the sand is falling in. Just imagine we had a flood that covered the face of the earth, and we've got different uh, areas of the world, like the Grand Canyon in the United States, that had a tremendous amount of water carved through it. It didn't get created by the Colorado River in the bottom of the canyon. It was most likely the water that exited that area from the Great Flood. Could be, I don't know. Don't know for sure. But when we did have the flood that's accounted for of in Genesis, up until that time, Noah spent over 100 years building the ark, and then there was water. It hadn't rained until then, and then Noah got in the ark with all the animals, and then God sealed it up and caused it to start raining. And then the fountains of the deep opened up and the windows of heaven, the floodgates of heaven. So there's a lot of water that covered the face of the earth to over the tops of all of the mountains. However tall they were then, I don't know. There are things that are really unknowable to us, and then in the context of what God's word says, it needs to be accepted on faith. That's what I do. So in the greater or in the flat earth movement and in the truth movements, there is a virtual spiritual smorgasbord. I'm well aware of that. I was an atheist. I was clinging to my godless cosmic Big Bang as I lived a life for the pursuit of pleasure and satisfaction and all of that. It was a dead end street for me. A lot of people find that. And then when I thought I was born again, like 33 years ago, I wondered why I was struggling so much with a variety of addictions, a smorgasbord of sin in that context. Why was I doing that which I know I shouldn't do? Well, all I had was the flesh to overcome the flesh. And so it's not like I achieved a higher state of consciousness. I received the Holy Spirit of God to help me to overcome what's humanly impossible to do. Now, some people might be able to apparently pick themselves up by their bootstraps. However, that's not going to get them to heaven according to what Scripture says. So the Bible says what has happened, what is happening, what will happen, and what needs to happen. Also, what it looks like if it has or hasn't happened. So when I hear the level of biblical ignorance or illiteracy from the pulpits, supposed to be shepherds, they're many times wolves in sheep's clothing. It's probably one of the biggest objections that I've heard in all my years of paying attention to this is that all the fakers, all the yeah, there's the water. That's just the difference in density and mass, and then the atmosphere flows back into the bottle. That bottle's 100% full. Yeah, full of atmosphere, full of purified liquid oxygen and hydrogen. And so I have people, they say, what's the purpose of the water? Well, it stabilizes my tripod when I use it for that. It uh, nourishes my body, carries away the toxins, hydrates me, and it's quite a conversation piece. People normally want to know about it. So the footprints in the sand were made there by heavy equipment. They get washed away because of that, the way the water does that. Those ripples will just stop in a short time. And that's all repeatable, observable science. And no gravity necessary. That wouldn't work in the spinning globe model. It's just not possible. Uh, and that's how ridiculous the spinning globe lie actually is. There are some dynamics that I determined through calculations. One of them is from coast to coast in the United States, from Myrtle Beach to Long Beach, 8 inches per mile squared means that there's uh, 650 miles of curvature, 325 miles up, down, and in the middle, it would be 325 miles tall. The Volkswagen high performance diesel that I used to go from coast to coast would average 55 miles. Well, I got 55 miles to the gallon with that. I confirmed the computer generated measurements with actual diesel input, the fuel I put in the car and the miles driven. So I confirmed it. I didn't realize, I just was curious, at the time. I wasn't forming a flat earth documentary. However, I've got an excellent memory on this stuff. And I know that when I would go over the Rocky Mountains or the Smoky Mountains, it would be in the neighborhood of a 5 or a 6% grade, and my fuel economy would drop down to about, oh, anywhere from 15 to 20 miles to the gallon. And then I would put it in neutral coming down the hills. That might scare some of you, but it worked great. I don't have any problem doing stuff like that. A little bit of water coming out of the top there, and then when the jug is unplugged, it'll come out really fast. Just physics and property of water all over the place. Or other liquids. In a level like a construction, for use for construction, it won't freeze whatever liquid is in there. It might be alcohol, I'm not sure. That's a Duraglass jug. It was $2 at a swap meet. I got it from a gentleman who I used to do drugs with. He was a heroin addict, and we were smoking marijuana. I don't need that anymore, and that I'm not on a prohibition campaign or a legalization campaign. I'm just simply here to say I I am so glad to not be caught into that control mechanism that's put in place. To make a plant illegal, I think, is ridiculous. However, it provides a lot of relief for a lot of people, much safer than the opiates and the cacophony of pharmaceuticals that are killing people. I think in the United States alone, we have 112,000 deaths by pharmaceuticals. There we can see the water coming out. I purposely put it in the flow to show the difference. One is just the difference in density and mass coming out of the jug. It's leveling out. The other took millions of dollars to pressurize and pump. Simple illustrations, and that's what I want to do. I want people to be able to look at their everyday life and what can they observe. What can we see? Because I know I certainly can't trust the authority. I flipped it around so I could get more to come out. Just and it's seeking its level there too. On my more recent photos, I've got a water tank that was on the construction site. It's tipped. You can see it, but if you scroll up and down on the picture, it matches perfectly with the horizon. It's an industrial auxiliary water tank that they have on the site. Just all kind of interesting. These clues are all over the place. I was able to take some video of a crane that's handling pipes. It's got a cable that's hanging vertically. Wouldn't work upside down. They attach gravity to their global lie, and it works for everything they want it to. The one thing lacking is the fact that is the truth in the matter. That's what's lacking. It's a massive deception, and one of the things that absolutely blows my mind is the amount of anger that people bring forth when I challenge it, when I challenge the official narrative. That's just they're turning it off, and they're going to change over ships. So, for example, when somebody would come up to me and I would give them a quick version of this, yeah, you can see the sand just moving on in there. They're prepping the setup for the next pipe that they're going to put on. One of the things that I'll say to people is, well, they'll say, what are you up to? Well, I'm showing the physics and property of water and what they're doing here. By the way, we didn't go to the moon. We don't live on a spinning globe, and we still got monkeys. They lied to us when they said we came from monkeys, that we evolved from monkeys. They did
That's
not.
sure right there, Robert. They definitely lied to us.
Oh yeah, as children. I mean, and I was a part of that. I was a part of that deception because that's what we taught our children. We taught our children that we lived on a globe.
And it only actually really happened in the 60s. I put a video out yesterday about time zone, how the Americans changed their time zones. It was an American one, and it's all just set up to basically people spending more money.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with nature or us. It's all a conglomerate thing set up, and it's just like, yeah, exports and imports and stuff like that. And the second guy just said all the time zones, how they change everything, how the computers work. The whole thing is just an absolute nightmare.
Oh yeah.
We don't need all these.
Yeah, and when I was in
It's just another.
go ahead.
It's just another layer of deception. It's just another layer of it.
Oh yeah.
Proves that we're not a ball. Because
Yeah, well,
these countries are changing half a second, half a minute here, minutes there, days here, and then other computers say this, other computers say that. Then there's like, when we put our clocks back, we go back, Australia goes forward. How can all this happen? It's all just rubbish.
Well, it
One
is.
place is going forward, the other place is going back.
Yeah,
And it just seems that until the 60s, it happened in the 60s. They did all this in the 60s.
yeah, and until they apparently or supposedly landed on the moon, it was still a pretty hotly debated topic in some circles. In the 1800s, from what we can see, there were publications, Earth is not a globe and Zetetic, all of the different writing that was about this. Uh, it, the authority in charge of much of what's distributed in print and communications, uh, they give us the opinion and the belief they want us to have. Quite frankly, is how that works. So they formulate not only the beliefs that they want us to have, they also distribute the response to objections to those lies. So in other words, when somebody says the earth is flat, well, then they're viewed as crazy, right? By the people that are deceived. And they don't know. See, we're wanting to help set people free from that deception. I know that that's what I'm all about. And it's more than just the global deception. There's a lot more going on here than that. Now, just in what you're looking at in front of you, just so you know, this is a very unusual setting. The last time it happened in this area was a decade ago. So I'm actually capturing something that is a rather rare sight to be able to see. The fact that I'm on a pier right there gives me closer access to this whole setting than I would ever be allowed to be on an industrial location while I'm not employed by that company. Watch the water roll out of the or flow out of the pipe. It's just what it does. It's just what it does. When you take a shower in the morning and that water is falling out of there, there's either pumps pressurizing it, or it has the water source higher than your shower head, a water tower. I purposely have to learn to not say it gravity, because gravity is their big lie. So I don't want to get caught up mentioning something there that's not accurate, that's not true. I made a post today too. It's an excellent post by The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction. A lot of his videos are on my liked video playlist. This one is about gyroscopes. Gyroscopes actually prove we're not on a spinning globe. If you if you have a gyroscope sitting for 6 hours, it's not going to move in the gimbal. It'll just stay right where it is. That's conclusive proof we're not on a globe rotating 1,000 miles an hour. But you see, even if, like on this, here, let me unmute this so you can hear this. I wanted you to hear the backup beeper. when the backup beeper of all the truth that you would need to know to form an accurate decision backs up to somebody that has a made up mind that's contrary, they're not going to get it. So it's not about a IQ, it's about a I will or a I won't look into this. And even if they'll look into it, if they, I believe it's only by God's grace that ultimately they'll be able to love the truth. And as I've mentioned, I didn't jump into this and decide to use it as evangelistic outreach. That's how I came into this whole thing. I believe Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He's the living water. As water reflects a man's face, God's word reflects the man. All of that. Look at that. Oh, yeah, that's Smeagol. Smeagol knows how to work the mirrors. Yeah, look at him. Isn't he something? Yeah, I don't know if Patricia Steer would think that Smeagol is attractive, but I think he's adorable. Yeah, in all his magnificence there. But anyway, yeah, the physics and property of water, the pursuit of the truth, it's all very interesting to me. I meet people from all different walks of life. I met a gentleman. Oh, it just ended right there. Kind of kind of interesting. What I met a gentleman that's a pastor, and what he told he asked me, what I was doing, and I told him, and he said, that's fascinating. I never really even thought to look into that the world might not be the shape that we're told it is. He never even thought to look into it. So he said that he would. And then I've met other people that I've mentioned that to, and they had never thought to look into it, but they had all kinds of rebuttals ready for it. So there's different types of different responses that people have. See how the earth is displacing that water? That's about a 400 horsepower diesel, but that's a different rating of horsepower than normally a car would have. He's just going to plug that pipe on there. And I've operated equipment like this one with the clamshell. It's all pretty amazing. It's an articulated loader. He's going to go and push that in place. They use like a gunny sack burlap material to put in between the pipe. Oh, let's see if you can. He wants it a little straighter. If they were to have a leak on one of these pipes, way in, that would be a problem. They would fix it. They would figure a way to do it. There you go. Yeah, you can notice nobody was near that equipment. So working around the heavy equipment, it's a big deal. People, if there's substance abuse around it, they're out immediately. They can't afford anybody to get killed on their watch, on their site. So keeping the pedestrians or the population away from it is a big deal. So I've been really busy about doing this. In the context of this, a guy, I was actually recording or broadcasting, back the trailer up to the edge of the breakwater, and starts dumping a load of ugly dirt off into the basin there that was going to be covered up with the sand. Well, I called the police. They didn't do much. Then I started shoveling the ugly dirt out of there. Well, it didn't have any, it had broken glass, wire, and sharp objects, and of course the broken glass. And then not one bug. I didn't see an ant, an earwig, a sow bug, um, a worm, nothing. That's unusual. So one of the police officers that came out the next day says, "You need to mind your own business." I said, "It is my business. I'm sorry it's not yours." He was the beach patrol. I don't back down from people that try to bully me. It kind of irritates me a bit, because this is my business. I don't want the people to decide they don't want to come here because of a potential toxic incident. Yeah. So we can see how the water fills in. Watch as I'm going to pan on up there. But the water just races back down into the hole there. That's just what it'll do all day long. So in areas of the world where they don't have the luxuries of our modern development of indoor plumbing and that, they've got puddles and ponds and all that kind of stuff. So the evidence is all around us, and that's to that end I labor, is to illustrate that and to engage the hearts and minds of individuals and help them to see the truth of this. None of this would work if they were stuck upside down to a spinning globe. That assertion is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not embarrassed to not believe the lie. I actually feel a little embarrassed for people that defend their deception. And by irony and paradox, they don't know they're deceived. They don't have a clue. So that was kind of like my introduction. I'll take a breath and see what y'all think about that. If you have any questions or comments you want to bring forward.
Yes. Do the chat room have any questions for Robert? Take a couple of seconds to go through, Robert.
Sure.
Judith, do you have any questions? Theories?
Yeah, I wondered how it actually overall did go there. Is there a lot of damage or something?
Well, what happened was millions and millions of metric tons of sand was moved from this area. And when the storm surge comes in, it liquefies the sand and makes it very movable. As we're looking on that fluid that's coming out of the end of the pipe, there's a high percentage of water. Well, it's like a 60-40, 60% water, 40% sand. It just flows like without any problem. And that's what ends up happening with the storm surge. The waves move the sand so much and so fast. That's the mind-boggling part. It doesn't take days. It happens in hours. And it can reshape a coastline in a matter of minutes or hours. Yeah.
It's mainly beach damage or so?
Well, in this area at this time, they're renourishing the beach, but there were millions of dollars worth of damage to houses that flooded out. There were some fires that they couldn't respond to because there was 4 feet of water over the roadway to try and get to the houses that were on fire. We didn't have any deaths in this area a year ago from that. We had a lot of property damage, though. Yeah, the pier was damaged a bit, and then they just needed to repair that. hmm
Uh,
Even the steel reinforced concrete construction with high enough storm surge can take them right down. It happened in I believe it was in Texas with Hurricane Camille. They were having a hurricane party and everybody was killed in that high rise, a condominium. That guy out there that you just saw on the board, He's got he's missing a leg. He has a prosthesis on, but he goes out and kayaks anyway. Kind of cool. That there's a diverter on the end of that pipe that spreads the water out better. Otherwise, it would just cut a trough. What they're creating there is a basin that has ridges in it, and they don't want it to be perfectly flat. They want those ridges in there to create turbulence that actually causes the sand to fall out of the water. And they want the water to go out to the ocean. There's plenty of room for it there. It's where it came from. What's interesting too, now this is during the daylight, obviously. When I did this at nighttime, the perfectly flat water was an excellent mirror to show what looked like a laser beam shooting across the water. I've got so much content on it, I don't even know quite how to manage it all. Well, we have, like this past year, about 16 million guests a year that come here, and it's hard for me to upload things to the internet. I can stream live. When it comes time for me to try and upload even a 5-minute video, it might take me hours to get that to work. If it's a 15-minute video, I might try all day and not get it. When I visited Wisconsin, because of a more stable population, they don't have all the tourist influx. I could post a 15-minute video in less than a half hour. It would go right up there. There's that surveying device out there that they call it the crab, and that's the new, or that's the ship that they're going to unload. What's interesting about the ships that are out there, they're so much closer than a ship would ever be allowed access to the beach. And so I was able to capture content that was uh, pretty, well, it was rare and unique, especially for the applications. There you can see they bulldozed a ramp going over the sand. If they were to just try driving over that pipe, it would crush it. It would flatten it right out. And yet they can push the sand over it and drive a bulldozer that weighs over, oh, probably 40,000 pounds. Drive right over the top of it and not harm it a bit. It's kind of interesting too. They have people working security. It's a third-degree federal offense and mandatory jail time for climbing over a pipe. If you when they reopened up the beach and they had those ramps over there, you could go over the ramp area, but not you couldn't just go over the pipe itself. I wanted to flip this around and show you the kitties on my lap. Maybe you can see them. Oh, yeah, there they are.
Uh,
Yeah,
all
they're
three.
funny. Yeah, that's half. Well, that's almost a third of them. Here I've got my sphere of mass deception right next to me there. It's funny, Joni got that after I mentioned that we don't live on one of these. She thought it was funny. But we've talked about it. She won't even watch a video on it. She won't even look
Yeah.
at it. She'll watch all kinds of mindless television, but not interested in seeing any documentary that might give her a different perspective. How ironic,
It's,
isn't it?
Dream is too beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this one is Smeagol. He's my favorite. He's our favorite. Yeah. Yeah, I found it's kind of interesting. Around me, I've got a lot of plants. I've got a worm rescue operation here. It used to be when I would see a worm wriggling on the concrete or blacktop, I would pick them up and throw them in the grass. Now I bring them in the house and put them in the plants. They seem to help the plants grow better too. You know, there is a symbiotic relationship with a lot of what we do. You know, we can bring smiles on people. We can or we can. When I see somebody, I smile a lot. I feel really good about life and what I get to do. And to some, they see that and they smile back, and others don't smile much, or they don't wave back. It doesn't mean I wish I didn't give them the smile I gave them. I think it's, you know, I just am very grateful, and I want to share that that joy with people. There was a point in the Truman Show. Now, Ceres and Karen uh, and panel, did all of you see the Truman Show or clips of it?
In parts of that.
Well, you know what's kind of interesting? Truman was in school and he wanted to be an explorer, and the teacher said, "Oh, there's nothing left to explore. We found it
Yeah.
all." Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. And that's kind of interesting. The other thing is with the Truman Show analogy, what I get to do, and I believe what many of us are doing, is showing the world that's basically deceived, uh, the world that we actually live in. And that's
Are in the
the
Truman Show.
yeah, yeah, it's almost like the opposite of the Truman Show. You know, I'll take the camera. Let's see if I can. Yeah, here it
Size
is.
of the bubble is for one person in the middle.
What I needed to do, this is the bottom of my tripod uh,
Night
bracket.
tonight.
Oh, it is. Yeah, every night's kitty night for me. I'll have 8 of them on the bed with me when I go to sleep. I have to be careful when I move because they like to lay right on me. I'll have 100 pounds of kitties laying on me when I. It's kind of funny. But they discontinued this camera, the P900, and I've had to take it back 5 times because the bottom breaks right off of the camera. So I used a two-part epoxy to reinforce the base of the camera. Now it may very well avoided my warranty, but I don't care. I peeled the serial number off and put it in my manual. However, I needed to reinforce this because I want to be able to utilize the technology. It's actually the P900 is more like a telescope with a camera on it, but it's more than that. I mean the videography that I was able to show you there is interesting, and you know the way that I'm able to zoom in on things, and you've seen with other people do that, Dave Marsh and others that have used similar technology. I think Dave has a B500 maybe, um, but very, very interesting the way that we're able to uh, show things. And so I just wanted to ensure that I'll be able to have it for longer. That's the reason for that. But you know, the idea of the simplicity of undisturbed water being flat and level, that's something that I don't I don't think people really know quite what to do with that. The objectors to the flat Earth, you know, they're they're largely clinging to their false information. But seeing is believing. What? You know, we see fake imagery from space, and this is part of the paradigm that really blows my mind. Leading up to this, finding out that we're not on a globe, there were people that were apparent watchmen on the wall, so to speak, whether it would be Steve Quayle or L.A. Marzulli or some of these other individuals that actually uh, don't believe in the flat Earth. They believe we're on a globe, and they're also believing what NASA is telling them. When when they've got an insider from NASA. An insider from NASA is not very impressive to me when they're talking about Planet X coming around and all that. I don't know quite what to do with Planet X. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying the fake alien invasion. Uh, the different things that NASA puts out, I don't trust, obviously. But here's the other thing that I wanted to talk about as well. As important as the shape of our world is, what it illustrates is the level of cooperation and compliance in the deception, or the people that are involved in it. All the multimedia, all of that. So that's the big deal. It's not just that NASA lied about it. It's that none of the what I had previously trusted as uh, investigative journalists, they're not exposing this. So there are some people that have the fortitude to expose it, and I would be one of those people. But it's beyond. It's because God put that passion in my heart to expose both the truth and the lies. And in the truth movements, I mean, we've got something they're about ready to unleash on the United States. It's called 5G. How much of that are you aware of, Ceres and Karen in the panel?
Aware of what?
It's called
Right?
5G. It's going to be a different level of frequency that they're going to bathe our
Oh, yeah,
population in.
way more damaging.
Yeah, on my phone. Yeah, on iPhone. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
far,
it's
the research is more damaging than the G4 and than every previous level was. It's
exactly.
getting out
And
of
then
worse.
and then so the uh, the atmospheric modification, geoengineering, chemtrails, all of those are synonymous. They're synonyms for the similar type of activity. It's creating
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
very conductive atmosphere. And
Good,
so they're going to be bathing us in a frequency that allows them more uh, to do more. And so they're not backing down with it. If it was just causing and creating storms, that would be one thing. But it has to do with population control and I believe population reduction as well. It could be very, I've heard reports that
first command
they
of
can.
the Richard Guidestones.
What's that?
Obvious first commandment of the Georgia Guidestones.
Oh
I wonder
yeah,
when they break that thing out.
yeah. Well, see,
Actually,
they
not thing. Come on,
they
have
want
energy in our world.
yeah, and part of the days of Noah, as in the days of Noah, there's genetic modification that's been going on for a long
Yeah.
time, and that's part of it. That's part of what we're dealing with. We're not just dealing with a um, a
The
level
funny
of
thing is,
deception that
all
somebody came
embodied
up with.
stuff in material realm, and we're never getting ourselves in order in spiritual realm, where we actually control the material realm, and that it doesn't have any even have any effect because your field is in order, your field is in balance. So it's
Well, yeah, there's uh, silent weapons for quiet wars. I mean,
mm,
they're able to affect the population's perception and moods, and I believe even quite possibly interrupt the frequency of the body, like the heart, where they've got paddles that they put on people to resuscitate somebody's heart, to start it, or to stop and start it. But I think it can even be to where they maybe cause the heart to stop. In the shot here, one of the things that I was showing is the distance. There's that 16,000 horsepower pump, but that's a long ways away, and that's part of the dynamic too. You know, we can see a lot farther than we're supposed to be able to, and that, quite frankly, is where I weigh in on this as far as the eternal perspective. I want us to look much further. I do much further down the way, down in my lifetime, which is how long? Well, we're all eternal beings having a temporary human experience. So in this human experience, I I have some of the most shocking information I've ever encountered, and that being, I thought I was born again until I actually was. If you would have asked me, am I a Christian, 4 years ago, and I would have said yes, I'm just struggling with some issues.
Yeah.
Well, the issue I was struggling with is all I had was my flesh. That's all. That's all I had. I didn't have the Holy Spirit. God is not a
Okay.
cosmic killjoy taking my pleasure away. He actually provides deep satisfaction for doing what He created me to do. So I don't, I don't feel sorry for myself, even though there's difficult circumstances. That's part of the crucible of adversity that God forges the character that He wants for me to have. So that's a different way of looking at it. There's I remember sitting in a group of people that wanted prayer for cancer, healing, and help with their child that's they're struggling with, and all of that, and kind of treating God like He's a cosmic bellhop to help them do things, and like handing them a shopping list of a to-do list. And what I see now much more is hearing God's word is me finding out the way He wants things to be, how He wants me to be, and how He wants others to be. So when I am in a relationship, I'm in a marriage with a wife that shows no apparent love for the truth. She would rather watch mindless television than a documentary that would expose the truth of what I'm wanting to share with her. She's not interested. That's pretty sad. But where else do I go? I mean, I, I'm not shopping around for a new Mrs. Foertsch. One is plenty. One is
Hey,
enough.
Robert.
What's that?
Robert, I'm
Yes, ma'am.
sorry.
Oh, thanks. You know, it's a bit of a challenge. I gotta say, and I appreciate your concern and that of others. You know, what's kind of funny too is I've been a bit public about
Saddest bit
the
is she'll never really know the real you, will she? That's the saddest bit.
well,
These things.
you know,
She'll
yeah,
never know the real you.
yeah. Well, she doesn't like the new me. That's what's really sad.
We love you, Robert.
Well, thanks. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great, great job, Robert.
Oh,
Great
thank you,
job.
Yeah,
Rita.
Robert. If anybody in the chat room knows, I speak to Robert quite a lot. He's a really good friend of mine, and I love him lots.
Oh,
I
thank you
love
so
I
much.
love to say something about the ET phone home.
Okay.
Yeah, I go to Google. Google, it's incredible, incredible machine. I don't know how to call it, but it's kind of God because every question that you have, if you know how to question Google, it will give you the answer. So I asked Google, ball art. I wrote ball art. So he opened for me all the map of the flat earth. Incredible. And then I asked him of the bell of the Vatican. He opened for me all the picture about the Vatican and what they pray or who they pray and all the statue they have there and all the information about the Vatican, how they push the ET, the you know all
The
this.
extraterrestrial, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, all this stuff. And when the Pope said, if they come, so they must be a brother of us. You remember this?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
See
And
it? Yeah,
and they have the most incredible telescope in the world. It's named Lucifer.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And they have also a big statue of Lucifer. And everything is around this. And wow, Google will give you answer every question you have. Google got the answer for you. Incredible.
Well, it is. In fact, that's part
Yeah.
of the quantum computing that they're working on and that exists. It's actually artificial intelligence that's online right now. I made a post recently on that CERN and quantum computing and the mark of the beast. Now, I used to be a Catholic when I was a child, and I was an altar boy, and I'm not a Catholic anymore. I believe played out to its. I don't believe Catholicism is biblical Christianity. They were heavily involved in the persecution of what I believe is the real body of Christ, and in the Dark Ages, they were responsible for many children of God being martyred for translating the scripture, putting it into the language of the people. And I believe John Wycliffe was martyred by the Catholic Church. Many people were. So I'm not a fan of the Pope. I understand that they do have the binocular telescope on Mount Graham. Very aware of all of that. In fact, Tom Horn is one of my friends on Facebook. As far as I understand, he and Skywatch TV believe that the flat Earth discussion is a distraction. Well, I'm really sorry to hear that they view it that way. What I've had to really rely on the Lord to help me to deal with the opposition that comes in from this. It's not only atheists that are in opposition to what I'm doing and what we're about, it's also people that view themselves as Bible believing Christians. And they may be born again. I don't know. They may never be born again. I have no way of knowing. Um, Looks like I might be losing my broadcast here. I'm going to try and see what I can do for that.
Oh,
I
you're
got my
back now?
broadcast, but my battery power. But the level of opposition is staggering. It's absolutely mind blowing. So when I uh, found out some of the things that I did and I went public with that, I didn't get support from people that I was in ministry with before. One of the people I met, I had known for, like 30 years. He said, I believe you've just traded addictions. Huh? Are you kidding? It was so absurd for him to say that. I mean, I'm just so glad to be free that regardless of what other people think, say, believe, or do, I'll just do what I believe God wants me to do. So everybody else can deal with that. And that's, for a while, I was afraid to talk about the actual conspiracies because that's part of the profiling that they do for pharmaceutical modification of their adversaries or their opposition. See, there's a variety of control mechanisms that they put on the population, and one of them is pharmaceutical, and then alienating friends and family, the social dynamics. It's a full spectrum dominance that they release on people, so that dinner and a movie is dinner and programming. Watching some of the comedies, they marginalize and actually create the kind of persona of somebody that challenges the official narrative. They make them sound crazy and that they should be ostracized or picked on. You know, the majority of the opposition that I see, whether it's if I'm looking at activity in a group where there's a debate on cosmology, it digresses very quickly into personal attacks that have nothing to do with real science or repeatable observations. And there are plenty there to prove that we don't live on this. That's not possible. For gosh sakes, a wind chime wouldn't work on this. A ball spinning, let me spin it. Let me give her a shot right here. Okay. A ball spinning this fast, if it was at the beach, the salt water and dog spit would start flying off of it. That's a couple miles an hour. That's how ridiculous it is, you know. And yet people will just make fun of those that don't believe the official lie. Oh well, you know, suit yourself. That's pretty much what I do with this. But keep in mind, the shape of the Earth is only one thing. There's a whole lot more going on, and so that's part of why when I have the different broadcasts that I do, and I talk about healthy nutrition, fast food for healthy people, you know, liquefied fruits, vegetables, nuts, and the coconut oil on the skin, and instead of commercial sunscreens, and baking soda exfoliation, you know, using gloves. I found out that, you know, rather than just putting dry baking soda on my exfoliating gloves, I have them soak in a strong baking soda purified water solution. You know, the dark pigment that my skin is, when I rinse off, it looks like iced tea coming off of me every day, every day. Oh, and some might think, oh, I don't want to scrub my tan off. Man, I got more where that came from. It's no problem. You know, the hair, the coconut oil works good on the hair. What does that have to do with anything? I'll tell you what it has to do with. I'm extremely healthy. I've got more energy than I ever have, and I sleep when I need to, and I get up when I
Robert, I
need
just
to.
want to tell you that in the chat room, oh, that you're great and they love you and
Oh, well, thanks. I
also
appreciate
just
that.
I love this guy, Robert.
Well, thanks. You know, it's been, I really appreciate that. And that's part of the beauty of what's going on the internet with this too, is as we are able to bring this information out and evaluate where we stand, and communicate what we believe, we find that we're not alone. There's actually a lot of people that are getting unplugged from this matrix of deception, so to speak. So there is a form of support and affirmation, even though it would be nice to get it close to home, you know, like right in my home. I would like to have that. Now the kitties, Smeagol and Lily, they're on my lap right now. They're very supportive. They love me, but and Joni too. But yeah, the whole network of communications on Facebook and YouTube is really beneficial. One of the big things that I learned over, and maybe some of you have known this for a while, I used to think I needed to block people that were trouble for me if they were to take a post that I have and just start putting a bunch of negative comments. All I need to do is unfriend them, and I tell people ahead of time, I'm not going to debate on my posts. If you have contrary proofs or perspectives, send them in a private message, because even in the organizations that claim to be flat earth or 9/11 truth or whatever, they may have some really uh, bizarre beliefs that are not accurate. So just the unfriending of somebody can alleviate a whole lot of trouble. So in this economy of how to do this, or a way of conduct for me, I hand out when I'm on my news feed, the home page. I'll hand out invitations to those that are uh, aware of a lot of the conspiracies that are going on. Even though I've got my friend limit, I can do that. So I hand out a lot of invitations that way, and then one or two people a day decide they don't want what I got going on, and that's okay. So I trade places. I'm trading a friend that doesn't love the truth, apparently, for those that do. So it's a bit of a process, and it's an encouraging one. What I found out is that even though many of us may have different beliefs spiritually speaking, when we have an interest in the truth, and an apparent love for the truth, that transcends a lot of the uh, differences, I believe. So that's uh, that's pretty nice. Um, so what I was going to say, what's interesting too, I'm kind of bouncing to a different topic. I did have my camera, so it would synchronize with what they call satellite synchronization. It was giving me all kind of weird times on when the pictures I was taking. I was just checking them. I let it go for a while. Now I just set my clock the way I would normally set a device that I want to have accurate time. It's kind of funny on the equipment that you saw operating. I found out that many of them have gyroscopes on them uh, to cause them to operate level. When a bulldozer like that is on tracks like that, they're super heavy. They press into the sand, and then the blade is operated uh, like computer operated to make it go level. So it actually creates a level plane in front of it. It's kind of nice. And the sand works out perfect. It's like little bitty boulders, little bitty rocks. And then they like to work with the wet sand, which actually allows it to compress and pack. So when I was watching this construction project that they were working on, it's ideal to show what I wanted to show, the water displacement with the sand, and and all of that. We've got a lot of evidence that we can find, and it's all around us. So the the short the short version of this, with all the different things that are going on in society, with our the 5G, and all the frequencies that we're being bathed in, the cellular communications, and who knows what else they're blasting around, and the toxic environment that they're creating in the atmosphere, but also in the minds of the people who they've deceived. Now,
Oh,
there's another deception too, and that is when we believe that our neurochemical response is harmful to our bodies as well. When I used to be afraid, that was harmful for my physiology. I'm not afraid to live, die, or tell the truth now. So, or be unfriended or whatever, or divorced. I'm not afraid of any of it. So I put the good stuff in and keep the bad stuff out. I try to focus my attention on the positive. You know, my wife says, Joni says, Robert, you're combative. I said, well, I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior in this battle for the souls of men and women and children, and truth is the main weapon. The Word of God is true, and I want to share that. So that's why I've majored on showing the beauty and majesty of creation, and then giving God the credit He's due for creating this environment that He has us living in. So in the context of putting healthy nutrition in my body, keeping the as many of the toxins out of my body as possible, uh, flushing my nose out with purified water, it's a big deal. I put the coconut oil on my skin, not just for the sun. It's hydrophobic. It repels water. So, like the salt water that has who knows what in it, it's pretty tough on the skin. But the coconut oil protects that. So, it's like a body glove. So, there's a lot of different things that we can do that I found out that I can do to remediate some of these toxic assaults that we're on. It's not just the chemical toxins, it's the um, it's the information. And even though I personally am not being mind controlled by the television, uh, the majority of the people that I'll meet in a given day are deceived and they don't know it. And they're consuming all forms of deception, whether it's the music, the chemicals, the combination of all of that. So that's kind of I wanted to toss all that out there. It's not just one thing, it's all of it that fits together. One of the things that I noticed for the the people that are being alienated by friends and family for telling the truth the way that many of us have been, I found they're really open to friendship, being connected on Facebook. That is really, I'm glad to see that. I really am. That's my encouragement to others. I share it not to say, "Oh, look at me." It's this is what I'm about, and this is why I'm doing this. Now, on the matter of our how we do this, I believe that showing the examples that I do about the water, that's really simple. It's really simple, and we all have water and liquids around us to see that. That's one of the, I believe it's true, and it's very illustrative. The other thing is, it's so obvious to expose the deception of NASA and those that promote the global lie. So to basically shatter that is one big step. And then to show how the mainstream media and all the forms of entertainment and communications and education are complicit with it. They're an integral part of this whole deception. And that is the big deal. It's not just that they're lying about it, it's that they're participating in furthering that deception. So that's where limiting our exposure to that type of mind control is so important. So I think I've pretty much run out of stuff to talk about.
No,
No,
Robert.
no, I'm just kidding. But I wanted to hit the high spots and take a breath and see if anybody has any questions or thoughts you want me to expound on.
No, thank you for all you do, Robert, all the pictures. If everybody knows that Robert goes to the beach every day and takes of history, sun, something amazing that you've taken, and you spread the word.
Well, thank you so much. I think what I'm going to do is sign off for now, and thank you so much for having me
Even
on.
as, yes, Robert came on because he wanted to tell us what he wanted to tell us, and yeah, so it might not be the longest hangout tonight, guys.
And I do appreciate, and then the other thing too is my phone number
This
is,
one's especially for Robert.
yes, ma'am.
This hangout.
What's that?
I said this hangout was especially for Robert.
Oh, thank you so much. And I appreciate that. You all can contact me anytime you want through the messenger program or a phone call, or that would be just fine. I really appreciate the encouragement and the friendship. So we can all do a big hug now.
It's likewise, Robert. You, Robert.
Oh, well, thanks for including me. I really do appreciate that. Thank you all so much. Big hugs
Just
to
trying
all
to
of
get
you.
my camera to come back.
Oh, I've got a cat just about ready to unplug my mic. Oh, thank you so much.
I'm coming back. Just have to wait. My
Okay.
computer's a bit slow. Patricia, are you going to come and give Robert a hug? You did?
Yes, big hug,
Big hugs.
big hug.
Oh,
I
thank
don't
you
know if
so
people can
much.
see me.
Love you all.
But I'm giving Robert a big flat earth hug. Can you see me? I can't see anything.
Let's see. Can't see you. I can see my kitty.
I gave him a big flat hug. It's showing
There
my
you are.
camera's off when it's not. It's on.
Your camera's on now, Karen. Good to see you. Thank you all so
Yay! Good
much.
hug.
Love you all. Bye-bye.
Love you, Robert. Hi, Robert. He's gone now. It wasn't supposed to be the longest of hangouts today. This was a day off, but we've had Robert on because Robert wanted to say what he's got to say, what he had to say.
Dat was wel een lange avond, toch?
He did an hour and a half today.
Nou,
He said an hour and a half to 2 hours. And on that score, I think we're going to finish and have an early night, guys. But we're back tomorrow. We have an action-packed evening tomorrow. We have Mr. Thrive and Survive, and he's going to look at 5 more projects. We've got Matt, Weedy the Doc, we've got Karen B, we've got Dave Marsh, and we should have Owen. So,
Wow.
talking and making little presentations of their work. So, we'll see you tomorrow. So, a flat earth hug for everybody in the chat room. And thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. I think it's 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. So thanks everybody for watching, and see you tomorrow. Yeah, you did.
Love you all.
excellent. Tot de morgen.
Everybody.